Welcome to episode 111. And today I wanted to talk about how do you know when it's time to get HR support in your business. And if you're anything like business owners that we work with, you didn't start your business to spend all of your time managing people. But as the team grows, it's something that owners find very quickly, actually, my whole job has become managing people. So it's really hard to juggle everything in a business, and often cash flow, sales, marketing, get more priority as we're starting our business, which is fair. But we do get to a point that we've actually got to start to be a lot more intentional about our people and culture. So in this episode, I thought I'd give you 5 clear signs that your business is ready for HR help. So the first one is that you are noticing that you are spending more time on people issues. I never liked that term, but you know what I mean, than you are on business growth. And, this comes up quite often. As owners and leaders, we're jumping around doing a whole lot of different things. And then at some point we notice actually we're chasing timesheets, or we're dealing with conflict across our different employees. I'm answering questions all day long about, can I take this leave? Can I work from home? What's happening over here? We start to think about the legislative changes, and are our employment contracts up to date? When was the last time we looked at our policies? And meantime, our core business has to keep going, because that's the thing that we're actually here to do, right? Like, we're here to be an HR consultancy or an IT consultancy or a finance organization or whatever it might be. But the reality is that as your business gets bigger, your ability to do that day-to-day delivery diminishes, because you are actually starting to find that your days are becoming more and more involved in your people and your culture. So as an example, we worked with a business owner who ran a growing professional services firm. And she told me that I'm just spending more time dealing with employee questions, performance issues, and trying to keep everything up to date than I am actually working with clients and growing our revenue. And she was feeling like she was the accidental HR manager, which is not her background and not necessarily even interest either. So they brought us on board at Amplify HR to start to use us as their outsourced HR service, so they had a trusted partner to look at those day-to-day issues. And, we can do things like streamlining policies, introducing simpler systems, and also coaching the leadership team. And that gave the owner the headspace to focus on those new clients. So, at a certain point, people issues start to take up more time than you may expect. And the cost isn't just your time, it's also your focus, and what are you missing out on because you're taking the time to do that. And sometimes people will say to me, I'm just so buried in admin and reactive conversations. And that is the sign. That's where it's time that it's like, okay, we need some HR assistance in our business, and we need to actually start to bring that in, whether that's internally or externally as an outsourced HR provider. Okay, the second sign is that you've got high employee turnover. And I have come across so many people that can give me a whole litany of really good reasons as to why those people left. They had to go overseas, they had a sick mother, they'd already been here for 2 years, whatever it might be. But I would encourage you, even with those reasons, still look into it, because hiring great people is really hard. And if they're walking out the door, even if it feels like it's for the right reasons, it's really expensive, it's really time consuming and really exhausting for the hiring managers. And high turnover is often a symptom of something deeper. And so I will say to people, go back to your recruitment process. What happened within that? Because if that person now wants to either move overseas or move interstate, or they want to go and do something completely different, how did you not pick that up in the recruitment process? Or were the expectations to the employee not clear on what the role was going to be? Did we not onboard them properly? Did that employee just not see a future with us? Did they not feel supported by their manager? And because of those things, they then said, okay, now I'm going to go and do something different, or now I'm going to go interstate. So whatever the cause of the turnover, I would encourage you to just ignore the reasons and just look at the number, because high turnover is a red flag. And one of our most popular podcast episodes and blog posts is about how do you calculate employee turnover. So we'll make sure we put a link to that in the episode summary. Now, having good HR support will help you uncover the real reasons why people are leaving, but also put in strategies to make sure that your existing high performers stay engaged and committed, because we need to keep the right people in our business. It is much more cost effective than just accepting a resignation and then having to go through that recruitment process again. Okay, sign 3 is that your onboarding process is a little bit inconsistent. So, have a look, ask yourself, ask your team members, is everyone getting the same experience when they start? Or does it just depend on who's around on the day? Or does it just depend on who their manager is? Because inconsistent onboarding doesn't just make a bad first impression, it also leads to confusion, mistakes, and a lot longer for that employee to become productive with the organization. And, I remember working with a business where we spoke with 2 new employees about their first experiences. One had a fantastic experience. They had a day one induction, introduction to the team, and really clear tasks and objectives. The other one turned up, no one knew that they were starting. They didn't have a laptop on the desk. And, the thing is that that second person always remembered that as their first day. It's one of those flashbulb moments. And, maybe they will leave quickly. It could be years down the track, but either way, it dents their enthusiasm and their productivity from day one. And, with that business, it was an issue in that each manager was responsible for onboarding, but there was no overarching company process. So, in that case, we helped them create a really simple onboarding checklist with a welcome pack, a job description, check-ins for the first week and the first month. It doesn't have to be fancy. It just needs to be consistent, because the other thing is that employees talk to each other. So you've got the second employee talking to the first employee saying, well, this was my experience, well, this was mine. And so it really makes an impact on their impression of the organization, even for that person that had the great experience, because they can see that inconsistency. So a consistent onboarding process sets expectations, it builds confidence, and it helps new team members feel like they're part of the business from day one. So, once you have that consistent process in place, it will save you time every single time you hire, because it's not just at that hiring point, it's also because you will retain people for longer. Okay, the fourth sign is that your team just isn't clear on who's doing what. So, we hear this a lot from growing teams. When you're smaller, you start out with everyone just doing everything. Everyone's wearing lots of hats, helping wherever they can. It's awesome. But as you grow, that actually starts to create a lot of confusion. People aren't sure what their role involves. They don't know what they're responsible for. They don't know who they report to. Things start to fall through the cracks, or they get double handled. Frustration begins. So, having that HR support can really help you to define roles, structure your team, and set really clear expectations and that organizational structure. Because if everybody knows where they fit, they know what their work is, and they're going to work more effectively, there's going to be less stress. Sign 5 is that you are planning to scale up or enter new markets. And this is super exciting if you're looking to grow, launch into new locations, or expand your services. It's amazing. But with growth comes complexity, because it means new team members, different locations, perhaps more regulations. It could be bigger risks. So, I remember one of our clients was getting ready to scale from 20 to 50 employees with a huge expansion. And they were super clear on their growth targets, but they hadn't documented their processes. So, the culture is really just built around the founders' personalities and what they did. So then trying to scale that is very difficult. So we came in through our Accelerate program and worked closely with the leadership team to create a people strategy, role clarity, scalable onboarding, and compliance basics. So by the time they hired those new people, they had everything in place to grow. And I remember the founder said to me, I didn't realize how much we needed this until we had it. So getting that HR support before you scale helps you build solid foundations, really clear processes, getting compliant, and having that people strategy that supports your business goals so that you can grow in a consistent way with your people and culture and not just fall into potentially chaos and dysfunction. So I want you to have a think about those 5 signs and, are there any that you're seeing in your business at the moment? So firstly, you're spending more time on people issues than you are on growing your business. Secondly, you've got high employee turnover. If you're not sure, it's time to do the calculation. 3, your onboarding process is inconsistent. 4, your team isn't clear on roles and responsibilities. If you're not sure if they're clear, then ask yourself, are you clear on their roles and responsibilities? Because if you're not, they're not. And number 5, are you planning to scale, grow, or expand your business this year? And if any of those made you think, yes, that's us, it might be time to explore some HR support. At Amplify HR, we work with growing businesses through flexible services like on-demand HR, fractional HR, and our unique Accelerate program that helps you build your people foundations using our Find, Grow, Keep method, hence the name of the podcast. You can find out more at amplifyhr.com.au or just drop me a line. I'd love to chat. And if you've received value from this episode, it would be great if you could leave a rating or a review over Apple Podcasts or Spotify so someone else can also find the episodes to help with their business. Episodes are released on Monday, so click subscribe and you'll be notified of when that's available. Thanks so much for joining me. If you have any feedback, questions, or ideas for future episodes, just leave a comment or connect with me on LinkedIn and we can start a conversation.